Hey, you're listening to Not the Girl Next Door show, and today I have Molly Iago with us today. How are you today, Molly?
I'm awesome. How are you doing?
Good. Could you tell a little bit about yourself to the listeners, a little bit about your music?
Sure. So, as you know, was just said, I'm Molly. I am a guitar player first and foremost. I've played guitar for many years with several different bands and outfits all over the country. More recently, after playing a bit with Tantric, the band, I decided to kind of break off and do a solo project, which I'm working on right now. And the first single, called Lifetime, is coming out this month, which we're very excited about. It features Hugo Pereira, which happens to be the lead singer of Tantric as well. So that's kind of the expedited version of my story, and here we are.
Well, how long have you been playing? Have you been playing guitar?
That's a good question. I feel like I started maybe in middle school, so that would be like 10 years or so. Gosh, it goes by fast, but I would say 10, 12 years. But like I said, guitar is like my first love, sort of, and the singing thing is new. So, but yeah, it definitely goes by fast.
So were you doing a solo? You weren't doing a solo career until after the solo career didn't start till after you were playing guitar in Tantric, right?
Yep, absolutely. Just about 2018. Me and Hugo had this idea to record a duet together, and then sort of my manager really loved the song, and he decided that we should, get some funding together and do a CD with that producer. So that's kind of how it all came about. It was back in May, so I think that's like 9 months ago, or however long it was, 8 or 9 months ago, and here we are, like upon the release day. So it's been very new for me, sort of scary, but hopefully everybody likes what's coming.
Well, I've heard it, and I think it's absolutely excellent, and we will be playing it tonight. And we'll talk a little bit, actually, about the song, but first we want to know more about you. So according to what I have read, you worked with some stalwarts in the industry. You were trained and mentored by Chris Cafferty of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. I was, I think, 15 or 16 years old. And I remember I was on Facebook. It was like the night after I just got like selected to be like an opening act for the All American Rejects, which for me at the time, being like 16, I was so excited. So I remember my first rock concert was Trans-Siberian Orchestra, TSO. So like I was just like so like happy and excited for that moment. I thought I would check the guy out on Facebook, to kind of be like, hey, thanks, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be sort of doing this crazy dream, which sometimes I hate him for, other times it's great. But so I reached out to him, and he was giving away a guitar lesson or something, and I won it. So I went down, like I said, I think I was 16 or somewhere in there, and I took guitar lessons from him, and from then it kind of like, developed into a friendship. And I mean, we're still like, great friends today, and he's helped me make a lot of career decisions and sort of been a support system and a sounding board. Because, I mean, he's a veteran. He's been doing this for 30 years, So okay. I've been very fortunate to have him in my life for sure.
And now your first band, you talked about the All American Rejects, and you guys were a support act for Pop Evil, The Secret State, and so you guys you played with some pretty big bands.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. It was very awesome. It was like the band was called Pacinello. It was a female-fronted group. Actually, funny story about that band. Our first like sort of record deal or like touring sort of contract was with Mr. John, who is the big man of Rock Rage Radio. He sort of gave me my first chance. So it's kind of cool to do this and go full circle, because I remember nights like coming off. We were on the road in Michigan. He let us stay in his basement. Like, he was just so great. So to see Rockford doing so good and sort of see like where I've come in my career, like it's sort of a cool moment tonight to sort of reflect on that journey and how Rock Rage was involved from the beginning. So.
That's awesome. So what was the transition? How did you meet Hugo, and how did you get to play in Tantric? Like, what happened with that scenario?
So, very interesting scenario, to say the least. I met Hugo. I was living in Florida at the time, and his band was playing a gig in Daytona, which is where I would hang out a lot. And I've never seen the band, so I'm like, oh, let's go. And that night changed my life greatly in many good and bad ways. But so I met Hugo, and we sort of kind of had formed a friendship from there. And he reached out to me a couple months later. This was in 2017, and said, hey, his guitar player at the time was Matt Fuller, and Matt Fuller is in Puddle of Mud. So Wes, the lead singer of Puddle of Mud, was sort of cleaning up his act, and they were getting ready to go on the road. So Hugo told me, I'm going to lose a guitar player. Like, can you help me out? So that's sort of how that happened. And I remember driving to Boston, actually in snowstorms and terrible weather, and we went to Hugo's mother's house, actually, and we would just, like, work with the guitar and write music, and it just, like, the musical sort of relationship, like, worked really well. So in May, which was, like, maybe 6 months or so later after that, he was in Tantric just had a record come out called Mercury Retrograde, which is great. It came out in October on Pavement Entertainment. He was in the studio with Chuck Alkazian from Pearl Sound in Detroit, and he kind of called me and he said, hey, like, we have this idea for the duet, let's come do it. So the next day I was on a plane to Detroit, and we actually recorded it and wrote it basically all in one sitting. So it was just sort of the stars aligned with the musical relationship, and everything really worked out. And we've been friends ever since.
It sounds like everything moved pretty quickly. I mean, throughout the years. I mean, you've been moving pretty quickly along with everything since you first began.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I have more gray hairs than any 20-something-year-old should. But it's been fun and interesting, and it's definitely interesting to reflect back on everything that's happened, and I wouldn't be anywhere without the fans, of course, and my family and my friends. Actually, it's funny, I'm doing this interview from my uncle's house right now in Raleigh. He says hi to all his fans, too. So just family, friends and friends, of course, are all really important, because I wouldn't have been able to really excel at this without the support that I get, all over the country.
Now, let's talk about the new song and the new release. Your new song is Lifetime, and it is going to be on a album called Certifiable. Is that correct?
Yeah, yep. Certifiable is the name of the EP, and Lifetime is the sort of single that's going to go to radio next month. But early on Rock Rage.
But early on Rock Rage.
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about the song.
So the song, like I said, Hugo called me from Detroit. He was just finishing up his record, and he said, hey, come out, let's record the song. So I got there, and I had a riff, like, that I had already written and sent to him, like, maybe a week before. And when I got there, like, he had drums tracked. Actually, Chuck Alkazian himself played the drums, and he had this idea, like, he had a hook, sort of, and so he kind of worked off that hook. And basically the song is about sort of like, I don't know, being in love with somebody and then it not working out, but like the way you can really tell if that person was the one is if, every person after that one, sort of, you're always comparing your relationship, to that person, you're comparing your life situations to that person, like, just sort of, I don't know, just reflection. And you really, in one lifetime, like, is there only one soulmate? Like, I mean, you only have one heart to sort of give. So it's super cliche, but it's, it's a good meaning, and hopefully it'll, spread to the masses that way. So just a song, like, about a broken love story, like most, rock songs tend to be. So, but, I mean, it was great. It was great writing it, and we had a great time recording it. So hopefully, like I said, everybody likes it and it goes over well.
And that's slated to come out on Valentine's Day, February 14th, for the EP?
Yes, of course. Absolutely. But, of course, you guys are getting the first crack, so a month early. But yeah, that, and we recorded a music video for it actually in my hometown, which is really fun over the summer. So that's going to be coming out as well, which we're excited about. So a lot of time and effort has been put into this release and this song. So like I said, we're really hoping that everybody likes it and can relate to it and connect to it in some way. Because, I mean, I know writing it with Hugo, it meant a lot to us at the time. You know, I mean, it still does.
Right, right. So who were some of your musical influences growing up?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I love Dave Matthews. Like, I remember, you know, back when there was, like, Walkmans and CDs, like, I would put his stuff on repeat just because the guitar playing, you know, was so, I don't know, it was so intense, you know. And then, of course, my dad always had classic rock on in the car, so I kind of, like, mixed those sort of influences to kind of, I don't know, find what I was going to be as a guitar player. And I guess I sort of built off that. And right now, like, I love, like, the modern rock. Hailstorm is great. Let's See Hell's amazing. You know, Shinedown's awesome. Tantric, great band, you know. So sort of a wide collection of music. And I actually have been recently listening a little bit to some country music, too, just because I feel like my whole family's into that. So just wide array. And like even one of my uncles is like a concert pianist. So I grew up with so many different like styles, and it just sort of weaved into the musician that I became, you know.
So you had a musical background, you know, from your family growing up. So how young were you when you're like, you know what, I want to play guitar? Or did you just up one day decide you wanted to play guitar? Or is this something you knew you wanted to do something with music for since you were pretty young?
So yeah, I played the clarinet when I was a kid, which I think we might all go through that phase, you know.
Yeah.
You know, in bands and whatever I was doing when I was little. But actually, the day I decided I wanted to play guitar, it was after like I said, my Trans-Siberian Orchestra was my first concert. And I watched that show, and I'm like, I want to do that, you know? Like, that is what I want to do. Just the power of the guitar and that music was so, like, overwhelming. And I remember being on the school bus and today, like, telling everybody that I saw, like, the story of how awesome it was, you know? And sort of that is when I decided, and like I said, I had to wait a couple years. But eventually on my birthday, my parents got me a guitar. Like I said, it was probably middle school, so a couple of years later. And everything kind of comes full circle because, like I said, now I've been lucky enough to know Chris, and sort of he shed some light on me. So I guess it's been, you know, I was young at the time, so it's always been sort of a thing. So I'm very fortunate.
Now, what comes next after the EP release? Are you planning on going on tour? What comes next for 2019 for Molly?
So we just, my manager, who's fantastic, just started booking us on the road for the summer, which we're super excited about. We just started getting some dates. We've got a band together, and so hopefully that'll all go well. And then after that, I'm just going to take a really long nap because this is all exhausting, but it's part of the fun, you know what I mean? So hopefully we have some big plans, and I can't wait to get back to this into the studio with Chuck Alkazian again to do a full length. So that's sort of the 1 year sort of plan. And so hopefully everything goes well with, you know, this release now, and people are receptive to it and, you know, want more from me at all, you know.
Well, definitely, and I have to ask, what, you know, if being on stage is what kind of fuels your fire, how do you feel being on stage, whether it be you singing, which is a new aspect in your career, or playing guitar, whatever it may be? How do you feel being on stage and, you know, playing for these people who, like, are jamming out to the songs, rocking out, you know, singing songs you would see people singing, you know, in Tantric and stuff like that? How does that feel for you to be up there like that?
Oh, it's awesome. It's I can't even explain it. I can't even put it into words, but I just remember, like, after seeing, like, when I was a kid, like, and just what I've been through to sort of get to where I was, like, at the end of the day, like, playing the music for the people, like, that's what counts. Like, you go through so much nonsense, like, on the back end and the business end. And I actually went to law school because I was so frustrated with it. To, you know, figure out how to better suit what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, like, you can't lose track of music. And for me, I was always a live music person. Like, I 100% prefer, a live CD over a studio album. And so to be able to play that and just have people react to it. Like, my goal is to get out there, and I always say I want to see people's teeth, because if I see people's teeth, I know they're having a good time, because the teeth smiles are the best. So every time, every night me and the band go on stage, like, that's the goal. And if they're having a good time, so are we.
Definitely. So do you have any crazy fan stories or band stories that you could tell us that has happened throughout the years to you, or when you were in a band, and anything that would spark our interest? Juicy details too.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of, God love them, but some fans who, of course, get too attached. But hey, at this stage in my career, like, I love it. So but actually, so in my first band, it was called Pasanello, and he's gonna be mad at me for telling the story, but I'm gonna tell it anyway. His father was the drummer for our because, like I said, I was like 16, so in order for me to get in the bars, I needed him. So I remember I think it was our second tour. We would bicker often, and because father-daughter, and that's the thing. Like, how anti-cool is that? You're on your first rock tour, and you have to bring your dad with you, like, But he was great. He was awesome. So I remember we were playing a club in Washington D.C., and I forgot what we got into a fight over, but we got into a huge blowout, and he quit the band like 5 minutes before we went on stage. It was like mortifying, and he was the truck driver. He had the equipment, and he just drove off. He left us. Like, it was surreal. But I mean, just like little things like that, and would happen to us all the time. Like, just being in a band with my dad, and he's actually fired me from bands before. Like, he's pretty much like the center of my like goofy stories. But at the end of the day, like, without him, I wouldn't be where I am. So I mean, always good for a good story, but I mean, being fired by your dad, or having your dad quit the band, on the road in a strange city, anything like that, I've got lots of those stories from the early days. So, absolutely.
So I have to ask, what did you guys do then? If he quit like 5 minutes, did you talk him into like playing the show, or did you just have to cancel the show, or like what happened?
I had to call his girlfriend, and she talked some sense into him. But he came back. He drove the truck and trailer back up to the venue. We got him back. But it's funny, when he was like, mad at us and sort of like throwing a fit, we had half the trailer unloaded at the time. And for some reason, I think we were doing an acoustic performance or something. Like, it was a stripped down thing. And we actually, because he like half threw the load in, he just upped and left. We actually ended up like leaving a couple things, because I remember the venue was like 2 stories, so we ended up like leaving like $500 worth of gear there, because we had forgot, like, at the time, that the blow up happened, like, that we only were like halfway loaded in, so a couple things got left. But the girlfriend talked something to him, and the next night he was biz new. So I don't know what she said to him, but it was something good. So
definitely, well, applause to her for that.
Absolutely, she's always going to be in my thoughts for that one. But that was quite the instance for me. So.
I'm sure.
Absolutely.
So where can people find your music? Will you guys be on all the music outlets, streaming music outlets, purchase music outlets, and when will we be able to find out? Will you be releasing the dates for your tour soon? Tell us all the information so listeners can find out and get out to a show and get your music and merchandise and whatever you have available.
Absolutely. So right now you can pre-order Certifiable. You can buy merch right now. We've got T-shirts, wristbands, all kinds of stuff at Molly Diago, which is MOLLYDAGO.com. We also, of course, have a Facebook page and Instagram, all that at Molly Diago, MOLLYDAGO. So you can find me pretty much anywhere with that little tag. Once the music comes out, it's going to be like on all your apps, Amazon, Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, everywhere there's music, the song will be. So also make sure, you call it in and request it on all the Rock Read shows and, your local stations. That always helps us out a lot too. So we'll be all over the place. And then for tour dates, we're hoping by March, hopefully we'll have something to say. And if there's a city we should be at, make sure you let us know on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is, whatever you got, we're there.
Well, definitely. And Molly, thank you so much for coming on the show. We will definitely be rocking your music. And when you find out about that tour, we'd love to share the information and get that out there so that listeners and fans can come see you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nicola, for having me.
Welcome. Like I said, contact me anytime. Come back and tell us what you have going on.
Absolutely. And thank you and Rock Rage and everybody for supporting music. We really appreciate it.